Hello, folks, and welcome to the beginning of what's either going to be a very short series or an insanely long series on Obsidian Entertainment's Pillars of Eternity. A RPG, a classic Western RPG in the grand tradition of games like Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale and all of that shit, Planescape Torment, all that awesome stuff that is, like, the best. These are true classic role-playing games, and I adore these games. I've owned this game for a while. I've started it. I didn't really get reasonably far. I got far-ish. Okay, not very far at all. Point is, I didn't get as far as I want to, not necessarily because I didn't enjoy the game, or I didn't enjoy my class, or whatever. I just got distracted by other things I had to do, for work, for you guys, for a whole bunch of reasons. And I recently decided I wanted to get back in and try and play the game. I have not picked up the White March. Probably will eventually, because apparently these are pretty solid, but have not done that yet. Anyway, point is, I decided, fuck it. You know, if I'm going to keep on getting distracted during the time when I can actually play video games, by, you know, stuff I have to record for the channel, then I might as well play this game for the channel, and therefore have justification to keep playing it. I'm going to... they actually recently added, or semi-recently added a new patch that added a whole bunch of stuff that I haven't actually experimented with yet. So... This is new, Story Time. Story Time mode is for players who are more interested in exploring the story, in exploration and story development than the challenge of combat. While Story Time is active, the enemy's composition of battle is the same as normal difficulty, but the game mechanics are biased in the player's favor. Additionally, the party can carry an unlimited number of camping supplies. That's actually super nice. I'm actually kind of... I heard about this, and I was going to just say, fuck it, I'm going to play on easy anyway, because it's a more balanced, I kind of want that challenge. The reason I'm not doing higher difficulty is not because I don't like this type of game, or that I'm bad at this sort of game, comparatively speaking. I'll get into that in a little bit, though. There's a reason I'm playing on a lower difficulty setting, and it has to do with the story and the way this game works, but I'll get to that. Not going to play with expert mode, not going to play Iron Man, because that would... absolutely not be good for an LP. Actually kind of feeling Story Time, because the main reason I want to play this game for the channel is for the story and for the experience, for the role-playing. You know, I was kind of thinking if it was going to be, like, super easy, I wasn't going to be all that into it, but if I'm allowed an infinite number of camping supplies, that reduces the amount of backtracking I have to do to rest up every so often, which will cut back on busy work during the actual game play, which will be more interesting for you guys to watch. And if it's only making it so the mechanics are biased in the player's favor and not, like, removing all of the enemies and shit, then that's, I'll destroy. I'm gonna do Story Time. Fuck it. You know, I'll probably play this game on my own time at some other point when I'm a little less busy on a harder difficulty and stuff. But I'll explain why I want to play on easy difficulty setting for you guys. Even before I found out about that time-saving feature of the camp stuff. Probably have a chance to in a little bit. So yeah, this is a Kickstarter game. It's one of the early Kickstarter successes, like one of the early games that went through the big Kickstarter craze based on nostalgia, nostalgia for the old Nvidia Engine games like Baldur's Gate, etc. That came out and was actually really good. So, this was really impressive. Anyway, sorry, my throat's a little bit off. I haven't slept properly in about a week, so apologies for me being a bit tired. This, by the way, the reason this is either going to be an insanely long series or one that I'm going to give up on before, I go that far into it is because this is a game with a lot of reading, and I'm going to be reading it to you guys. I'm not going to have you guys read anything that isn't voiced by the character.
5 wagons grope blindly for the path on a starless night. their master glancing ever upward to the skies for assurance that he is on the right course. A dim lantern his only protection against the encroaching darkness. But the skies bring no comfort, shining no light, betraying no hint of what they know. The caravan carries travelers bound for the frontier hamlet of Gilded Vale, you among them, where a local lord has offered land and wealth to settlers from abroad looking for a fresh start. You have taken suddenly ill, sweating and shivering, and one of the other travelers signals for the caravan master to stop on your behalf. He pulls up just in time to avoid plowing into the trunk of a fallen tree that bars the way ahead. You will go no further tonight.
Anything that isn't read like that, and there are some bits that are read like that, I will be reading for you guys. And if I'm not necessarily as up to my full range of voices right off the bat, I will be, if the series continues. Anyway, so there's also a ton of stuff in character creation, so I imagine this first episode is mostly going to be building the character, explaining a bunch of shit about that, explaining some of the mechanical stuff, and then, doing a bit of the early game. So first of all, I'm obviously going to play a female character, but there are actually slight differences here. Like, every choice you make in this game actually has some level of thing. So, male. The place of men in society varies from culture to culture. Cultures in Adir and Idri and the Drywood, which, you can actually click on these to get a little more information. The Drywood, a colonial nation founded by settlers from Adrid, from the Adrid Empire. Following a series of conflicts with Adrid, the territories became independent in 2672 AI and is now ruled by a duke, DUC, who is elected by several earls that oversee the earldoms. Anyway, cultures like Adrid and Drywood place them in the forefront of the military, politics, and heavy labor. Among the tribes of the Nasquik, I'm going to butcher a ton of these names because there's a lot of fantasy words in here, men perform many of the homesteading and organizational duties. In Erglorenfell, a territory comprised of forests southwest of Beale River, populated indigenously by a group of loosely affiliated tribes collectively known as the Glenfellns, and governed by a council of its 6 most powerful tribes. Erglorenfell is home to a large number of ruined Igwith sites, which the Glenfells hold sacred. The ruins have been at the center of a number of large-scale conflicts with Drywooden colonists, whose settlements often encroach on Glenfell territory and who frequently seek to plunder the ruins of their relics. This game is fucking dense with lore, so if a lot of this shit is going right over your head right now, that's okay. That's kind of this game. It'll explain things as we go along, so you don't have to. There's not going to be a quiz, and by the time you get a little bit into the game, a lot of this crazy nonsense words start to actually kind of flow really nicely, and you get a feel for the overall thing. Like, the game is very good about just going, here's the world. We're not going to sugarcoat it and parse it out and try and make it easily understood by you. We're just going to have it as is, as a real place that is real developed and cool and interesting and established, and you just kind of pick it up as you go. Anyway, in Ergolenfeld and Ixtalion, men and women have more fluid social roles. By the way, we also start in Ergolenfeld. That's and the Drywood is, I believe, the Drywood and Ergolenfeld are kind of the main setting for this game. From what I've seen so far. Men and women have more fluid social roles. In all societies, there are exceptions to the rules, and men can be found in a wide variety of stations and professions. Excuse me. Female. A woman's role in Errol is largely dependent on where she is from. In the Edrian Empire, Valen Republics, and Drywood, women occupy many domestic, educational, and organizational roles. There are primarily hunters, soldiers, and leaders of the tribes of Nasquil. In Erglorenfell and Ixmon, women and men have more fluid social roles. In all societies, there are exceptions to the rules, and women can be found in a wide variety of situations and professions. Again, It's not a huge difference, but it is actually notable that in Baldur's Gate, men and women basically had the description of there's essentially no difference. So it's kind of cool that they actually acknowledge there are differences in the way society views men and women in this world. They're not necessarily directly the same as, real life cultures and stuff, but there's a thing. So anyway, next we're going to do our race, and both races and classes in this have sub-races and stuff, so we're going to kind of go through a lot. There's a lot of stuff here. Pardon me, it's going to be a little bit thick. I'll actually cut the first episode to just be character creation, and then part 2 will open up with the game proper. So if you want to skip character creation, do that, and we'll see for the rest of it. But I recommend sticking around because there's going to be a lot of lore stuff here, and also because this is a role-playing game, so we want to establish this character. So it's good, we want to do something with that. Anyway, human, commonly called folk, are the most common race in the Drywood Empire and the Endrathil Empire, Old Valen, and the Villain Republics. Villain Republics, a mercantile, powerful, and former colony, a mercantile power and former colony of a larger, more ancient nation, Old Valentine. The republics lie to the south of Drywood and Erglorenfell and are ruled by a duke elected by the Consilaci Assegai, a council of 14 dukes, including its 5 most prominent, the Duke's Bells. The Duke's Bells. Half a moment. Sorry about that. It is exceptionally warm, and I'm getting a little bit sweaty, so open that. Though not as large as the towering Amalalu, humans are known for their strength and willpower. So you get +1 resolve. Resolve reflects a character's internal drive, determination, and fearlessness as an emotional intensity that can project to others. It can be helpful for mental intimidation, leadership, convincing performances. In combat, it helps characters maintain concentration and contributes to the will and deflection stats. And +1 might. Might represents the character's physical and spiritual strength, brute force, as well as their ability to channel powerful magic during incantations. It can be useful for intimidating displays and acts of brutal force. I guess that meant during fights. Sorry, tired and not good at reading in the first place. In combat, it contributes to both damage and healing as well as fortitude defense. So that's humans. As I said, there's subgroups of all these. So then there's the Alma. They're actually usually blue. There's only one subrace that is kind of human-looking, so it's slightly unfortunate that you're only seeing this one right now. But I'll kind of go through all of them, the subs, before I pick an actual race. The Illumina. The mighty Illumina are the largest of the Kith races and are commonly found in or near oceans. Though not truly aquatic, they have an affinity for water, and many of their civilizations, such as Rathii, are based on naval domination. They are known for their unparalleled strength. They get +2 might. Dwarves. Dwarves. You can actually see, like, there are significant size differences. Say, dwarfs. By virtue of land conversion and number of colonies settled, dwarves are the most well-traveled race in the world. They are commonly found in the Drywood and Valen republics. Yes, we already read the Valen republic stuff. And almost any colonized land, dwarves are known for their great strength and tenacity. They get +2 might, -1 dexterity, and +1 constitution. Dexterity is a abstraction of the character's hand-eye coordination, balance, and overall grace. In interactions, it can be used for sleight of hand and fast reactions. In combat, it affects the character's action speed with all attacks, spells, and abilities, and contributes to the reflex defense. And Constitution. Constitution is the combination of the character's overall health and stamina. Although it is not used much in interactions, it is sometimes checked to withstand pain and endure a physical taxing ordeal. In combat, it affects maximum health and endurance and contributes to the fortitude defense. The way endurance works in this game is that when your characters get hurt in fights, they tend not to actually lose health immediately. What happens instead is that you have an endurance and a health bar, and the endurance you basically determines how long you can fight an individual encounter, with health being kind of more of a long-term how much you can take overall. So that in a dungeon crawl, your endurance may go down in like an encounter, and you might get like knocked down and like lose a player, like a party member for that encounter. But then they'll get right back up again. But if their health goes down too low, they could die permanently before, if you don't like retreat and go back to rest up and recover properly. And that's kind of why that gets into why I'm playing on lower difficulty. It has to do with companions, because in this game there are story companions who have like stories and characters and all this stuff, and they're great for story reasons, but they are kind of poorly optimized. And so what you want to do if you're playing on a higher level is you hire mercenaries who you can completely customize from the ground up using this exact same character creation system. The problem is they don't have a sort of story or anything, so while they're better for min-maxing and playing smart and playing on higher difficulty, you lose a lot of the story stuff that you get from the normal companions who would otherwise likely die relatively earlier into the campaign, and then you have to replace them with people who don't have their own stories and blah 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 blah. That's why I'm playing on lower difficulty. Elves. Elves are the dominant race in Ergloenfeld, and the white that wanes, and are extremely common in Drywood and Idrin. Elves are known for their speed and intelligence, as well as commonly isolationist nature. They get +1 to dexterity and +1 to perception. Perception represents the character's sense as well as their innate ability to pick up on details. In interactions, it can be used to catch someone in a lie, to make an observational comment about their appearance, or to notice something happening in the background. In combat, it contributes to accuracy, the reflex defense, and grants a bonus to interruption. The Orlan. Orlan are the smallest of the Kith races, although many cultures don't consider them to be civilized at all. Also notable for their large ears, two-tone skin, and hair, and air settled bodies. Orlans are commonly found in Ergloenfeld, the Ixian Plains, and parts of the Drywood. They are known for their mental intensity and sharp senses. They get +1 resolve, -1 might, +2 perception. And finally, the Godlike. The Godlike are the children of the Kith, civilized races, who have been blessed with the physical aspects associated with the gods, though some do not consider it a blessing. These aspects may take many forms, and often come with mystical powers. Aberrant head shapes are typical, and godlikes are unable to wear protective headgear, and it is nearly impossible to find anything that fits. As it's nearly impossible to find anything that fits. Because of their unusual nature, their inability to reproduce, godlikes are often viewed with fear and wonder. They get +1 to dexterity and +1 to intelligence. Intelligence represents a character's logical reasoning capabilities in interactions that can be useful for debating, sudden realizations, and problem solving. In combat, it contributes to will defense and influence. Influences duration and the area of effect of all attributes and talents. Now we're going to look at the subraces. Okay, so if you want to play a human, the subraces are Meadowfolk, the most common human in the Drywood. The Meadowfolk, or Therent, have lived in the area for almost 2,000 years. Meadowfolk traditionally live in the edge of elven forests, working the open plains, hence their name. Most humans in the Drywood are Therent. They get the special ability Fighting Spirit. Once per encounter, 5 seconds after being reduced below 50% endurance, folk temporarily gain bonus to accuracy and damage. So basically, you hit these guys hard, and they get a boost for a short period of time to, fight back against all odds. Ocean folk. Ocean folk, Calibrian, originate near the equator on the other side of the globe and are currently the most widespread human group in that region, but they have also migrated to the far reaches of the world. Ocean folks are the dominant culture in the Valen Republics and are also common in the Drywood. They also get fighting spirits. I guess, I think all the humans get fighting spirits, so never mind. There isn't a difference there. I think some of the other ones do, but metafolks, basically the standard humans of this region. White. The ocean folks, they're black. They're from the south. They also you can see that they actually slightly changed the style of gear that they're wearing and the default colors with culture. And savannah folk. Savannah folk, Nathalan, come originally from just south of the equator, and with the exception of some groups that migrated north, have remained in the same location for over 10,000 years. The name Nathalan literally means original. While quite common in Raskirl, Drywood's neighbor to the north, Raskilin is a nation firmly rooted in the Essoin faith, a fear that took hold during the events of the Saints' War and remained even after the apparent death of Althus. That is one of the religions. There's a whole thing with the religion that are awesome that I'll get to later. Savannah folk are not usually seen in the Drywood and the Valen Republics. Fighting spirit, blah blah blah. So then we want to play, the aluminum. There are two types of them, but they do actually get different bonuses. So there's the ones that we've already seen. These are the Island Otham. Island Otham originated in the Dread Fire Archipelago, 1,000 miles south of Valen's Republic. While physiologically similar to their coastal cousins, the coloration of the Island Otham is starkly different. Brown and yellow contrasting the coastal's blue and green. Though still uncommon in the Drywood and surrounding environments, Island Otham are commonly encountered there with the coastal Athlum, who are quite rare. When encountered around the Drywood, there are often laborers, fishermen, and sailors. They get the special bonus, Armed to the Teeth. All Island Athlum gain an additional weapon slot. So basically, normal characters, they can get 1 or 2 slots. They get more. They get 3 or more depending on what type of class they are. So they're great if you like variety. The coastal Athlum, viewed as a warlike race, the coastal Athlum live in mainland regions along the coast of the northern hemisphere. Lands they conquered by pushing Thurn, meadowfolk, Nathlum, savannah folk, and Orland communities out. Their culture is more centralized and urban than their island cousins, though both groups are involved in seafaring. Coastal Athlum are very rare in the Drywood, but those that do make the journey usually do so as mercenaries, bodyguards, and soldiers. They get the special ability, Towering Physique. Coastal Athlum gain a bonus to defense against prone and stun effects, so it's very hard to knock them down. The first character I made, who I am not going to be following up with, because I'm going to be starting this game, was actually one of them and a priest. It was a Coastal Athlum and a priest. Dwarves! Dwarfies. So, we've got the Boreal Dwarves. Most Boreal Dwarves, Enolokin, live in the remote southern islands of Nasquil, where they share the rocky tundra and snow-covered forest with migratory pale elves and coast-hugging shifts of the Athlum. Like their northern cousins, Enqui share an instinctive love of exploration. Boreal dwarves are somewhat common in the Valen Republics and seldom encountered in the Drywood. They get the bonus Hunter's Instinct. Boreal dwarves gain plus 15 accuracy against any creature of the wilder or primordial type. There's a lot of creature types in this game, so basically these guys are great at dealing with monsters. It's actually super cool. I might play one of them. I was thinking about something else, but that's cool. I like that a lot. Okay, Mountain Dwarves. Mountain Dwarves, Apto, originate on the continent of the east. On the continent to the east of Drywood, and have spread through the area several times. Unlike the similarly diminutive Orlands, who are frequently subjugated, the Optato have always directly fought back threats posed by the larger Kith opted to fortify their residence rather than move on. Mountain dwarves are common in the Valand Republics, but not seen often in the Drywood or Rickland. They get the special trait, Hale and Hearty. Mountain dwarves have a bonus defense against poison and disease attacks. So they're tougher where these guys are more aggressive. And, lore-wise, these guys are essentially like explorers and adventuring nomads, where these guys are kind of more tough, hardy, dwarves. More traditional dwarves, as you'd imagine them. Elves. Pale Elves. It is unclear exactly how long ago Pale Elves, Glenfellan, came to the southern polar region of the world, but they have lived there for at least 12,000 years based on their continuous contact with Athlum traders. They appear to be among the most stationary ethnic groups in the known world, migrating within the polar region but seldom venturing far north. They are rare in the northern lands. They are rare in all northern lands, and most people consider them exotic if they have seen one at all. Elemental endurance is their trait. All Pale Elves have increased burn and freeze damage reduction, so pretty good against magic and people with elemental powers, which are like a lot of summons and elementals, so yeah, that's pretty good. And then your traditional Wood Elves, Stratflock, trace their beginnings far north of present-day Edrin and have migrated south through the forests of the continent, now covering it all the way south across the equator. They are also believed to have migrated across the sea to Erglornfell. While physiologically identical to one another, Wood Elves from Erin are culturally different from those in Erglornfell and consider themselves wholly different groups. Distinct advantage against enemies distinct advantage is their ability. Against any enemy that is more than 4 meters away, Wood Elves gain a bonus to accuracy, deflection, and reflexes. In other words, if you're playing a Wood Elf, play a fucking archer, or play a fucking musketman, or play a fucking mage. But whatever you do, distance advantage is the name of the thing. Whatever you do, don't play a melee fighter as a Wood Elf, because their advantage is strictly good at range. The Orland. I do sort of like these guys, they're pretty cute. Hearth Orland. Hearth Orland are often found as slaves in Redclarice and the Valand Republics. One of the treaty terms between Drywood and the people of Erglornfell was the liberation of Orland's slaves, and while these have been honored, many Hearth Orlands continue to live in the Drywood as indentured servants. So, in other words, to make an uncomfortable real-world comparison, these guys are basically African Americans shortly after the abolition of slavery. Like, they are technically free, but a lot of people in the Drywood consider them to be little better than, upstart slaves, and many of them still live in indentured servitude that is barely better than their old slave lives. Ouch. Their racial trait is minor threat. When attacking any target that is being targeted by a teammate, Hearth Orlands convert some of their hits into crits. So in other words, these guys kind of suck on their own, but if they're attacking someone who their buddies are fighting, they get a bonus. They get a really nasty bonus. And then the Wild Orlands. These guys they're basically furries. Wild Orlands are the original Orlands, who lived in the deepest forests and jungles between the tropics. While they have only been slightly separated from the Hearth Orland for 1,000 years, a few genetic differences have appeared rapidly, most notably the lack of facial hair in the Hearth Orland branch. Wild Orlands are common in the deep reaches of Erglornfell. Unlike their Hearth and Orland brethren, they are not often seen in the Drywood, Redclare, or Valand Republic. Their ability is Defiant Resolve. After being subjugated to a will attack, Wild Orlands temporarily gain a bonus to all defenses. So if you try and fuck with their brains, they get super tough because they will not be fucked with, unlike their kindred who have been fucked with quite thoroughly. And finally, Godlike, who I was kind of thinking about playing as, but now I'm having second thoughts because there's some super cool races. Anyway, Death Godlike. So, as mentioned before, the Godlike are not a independent race. They're more mortals who have been born with the traits of certain gods. They are incapable of having their own children and are essentially like creepy-ass avatars. So these are the different, godlike aspects that they have, gained something from. So, Death Godlike. Death Godlike are the most Death Godlike are the most distrusted of their kind. Strange growths cover their eyes, or in some cases, entire face, giving them a sinister appearance. The growths are transparent for the godlike, but opaque from the outside, hiding their features. So in other words, even though it doesn't look like she has eyes, she actually is able to see perfectly clearly. It's just that from, the outside, it looks like they're completely solid and opaque. Death, look at the thing. Death. On certain difficulty settings, if a character... Okay, that's giving me game information about death, which we'll get to in a little bit. Death Godlike are commonly killed at birth because many cultures consider them to be harbingers of doom. So yeah, in case you thought this game wasn't going to go some dark places with the slavery thing, we also have Death Godlike. If a Death Godlike baby is born, a baby with like these weird facial growths, they are often just tossed out in the fucking cold. Because yeah, this is a dark fucking game. Alright, so their ability is Death's Usher. When Death Godlike attack an enemy with 25 or less endurance, that being the temporary hit points that go down in individual counter, their damage is increased. So in other words, if someone is hurting, the Death Godlike are great at doing that final blow. Fire Godlike. The bodies of the Fire Godlike often resemble hot metal, burnt wood, or stone, with harmless flames that erupt from the cracks in their skin. Fire Godlike are objects of both reverence and fear in the Dread Fire archipelago. Many locals believe that they have the power to awaken volcanoes, or that killing one will cause a volcano to awaken. In the Drywood, Fire Godlikes are often seen as a sign of the blessing of Magren. She is the goddess of war, fire, transformation, purification, consumption, and trials. Patron goddess of the Drywood. Oh, that's kind of cool. Though they have been thought to have blessed the Godhammer bomb that destroyed Waidwin and possibly Ethos. So this is something we'll get into a little bit more later, but when you choose to play as a paladin or a priest, you actually have to pick a god, and you have to follow the tenets of that god, or else you will lose their blessing. And there was a religious war that actually happened in this setting, where this god, I can't actually point to it, but Ithos, apparently was reborn through her avatar. Her avatar, who started a crusade in her name, and was killed by the Godhammer bomb, which was used by the worshippers of this god, Megren, to destroy her. And so it is actually now believed that that particular god, who was actually the one that my cleric was worshipping when I was playing with the other one, is dead. The god is dead, and her worshippers are essentially holding out hope that their dead god is in fact not actually dead, even though they are being persecuted by people who are kind of pissed off about that whole religious warfare thing. Oh, also, she was the nice god. She was like the god of being nice to people. So the good Jesus, kind-hearted, love thy neighbor god went on a crusade and was murdered. So yeah, fun. Gods of War and Fire. Battle Forged. When reducible of 50% endurance, Fire Godlike glow like metal in a forge, gaining damage reduction and doing a small amount of fire damage to any creature who hits them in melee. So basically, if you hurt them, they become way tougher and even burn you as you touch them. Moon godlike. Okay, cool. Moon godlike are the most tolerated of the godlike. While their skin tone and a large moon-like growth on their forehead may be strange to some, their appearance are generally considered more palatable by other kith. Sailors have many beliefs about moon godlike and their prosperity and their propensity to bring luck, though there is little agreement as to what kind of luck they tend to bring. Their ability is Silver Tide. Every encounter, when reduced below 75%, 50%, or 25% endurance, Moon Godlike generate a wave of healing moonlight that restores endurance to them and their allies. So they're like walking health potions. You hurt them and they heal everybody. No wonder, and they also kind of look like angels, so no wonder, they're generally more tolerated. Also, as like a lore buff kind of guy, lore buff type person, I really, really like that sailors who rely heavily on the tides and Fades of the Moon stuff believe that Moon Godlike are like super important. That's just a cool little detail that I like. Anyway, finally, Nature Godlike. Where you didn't care for the furries before, now you get plant furries. Nature Godlike appear to be a fusion of human and animal features, often covered by plants, moss, and fungi. They have, this has led to a common stigma that they are diseased, and many are killed at birth because of it. So, again, more babies being murdered, though this time less because of, prejudice and fear, and more to do with the fact that they are born looking like a horrible, disease-riddled awful thing. May druidic orders have keen interest in the nature godlike because of their general curiosity as to how souls occupy animals, plants, and stone. Their special ability is Wellspring of Life, granting a bonus to might, constitution, and dexterity when endurance is below 50%. So, like the other godlike, with the exception of death godlike, nature godlike, when badly hurt, become much tougher. But unlike fire godlike, instead of just becoming tougher, they become just physically stronger in all areas. So death godlike are really good at killing almost dead badly hurt enemies. Fire godlike are super tough. Moon godlike heal the whole party. Nature godlike become just way better at everything when they've had the shit beat out of them. Okay, to be honest, I'm actually kind of thinking moon godlike now. Let's see here. I'm kind of torn. Either Boreal Dwarf Ranger. I was kind of thinking godlike. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the godlike. They're the most unique race, so I'm kind of biased towards wanting to play one. So Death Godlike was kind of what I was originally thinking. They're kind of cool and creepy, and also I really like that ability to finishing blow people. Fire Godlike is pretty cool. Moon Godlike is cool, but I played a cleric last time. I don't really want to play cleric this time. I'll be honest, actually, I'm kind of thinking Nature Godlike. This was like the one I was least interested in before, but now I'm kind of feeling it. I'm thinking about playing a paladin, actually. So, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to play a Nature Godlike paladin. Oop, I think I hit the wrong one. Oh, body type. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, so this is fun. I forgot about this. So each of the races, I'm going to go back briefly. I promise we're done with with picking a race, but I just want to show you this. This is kind of cool. So, humans are about yay high. The aluminum are taller. The dwarves are really squat. The elves are a little bit taller and thinner. And the Orleans are tiny and kind of broad. The godlike, because they are not a race, but rather creatures born from other races, like born with like these innate powers, you can choose basically what their birth type was. So this would be a human. You'd have an aluminum, a dwarf, an elf, or an Orlan. And their physical bodies don't change. Like this, they're still ultimately whatever type of godlike they are. But you can choose essentially like what these were born out of, and determine their body shape. So what were her parentage? As I said before, I'm thinking this is where I'm going to start getting into the character and kind of start developing my idea for the character. So I'm going to probably roll Paladin as a nature godlike. So they're often killed at birth because of their diseased look. So I'm going to say that she was born into a household that probably either understood about this kind of thing or was not in a position to just throw her out and kill her. So I would say she was probably actually raised in a monastery. So what type of monastery was she born into? Kind of like the idea that she was actually born as into one of the slave households, but I think at that point they just fucking murder her. So let's say that she. Let's say, kind of. The dwarf looks sort of funny. Let's see what she was born into. She's gonna be a paladin, so let's have her be big. She's gonna be big. Actually, this is a tough choice. Let's say an elf. This is tough. I'm gonna say she's actually, I'm gonna say elf. I kind of like the idea of a slightly smaller powerhouse. So she was born into an elves. We're gonna say probably the pale elves. So she's come from up north, and basically she left because her natural inclination towards plant life and stuff and nature has driven her away from the cold harshness of her original homeland. Unless I end up getting the DLC, which I might do, in which case I guess she's going back home. Anyway, okay, so she was born from elves. So now, again, we're going to go through these things. So there's a bunch of classes here. There's the Barbarian, the Chanter, the Cypher, the Druid, the Fighter, the Monk, the Paladin, the Priest, the Ranger, the Rogue, and the Wizard. I'm actually no longer convinced I'm going to necessarily do the one, so I'm going to read the description of the class. I'm not going to read out the entire thing with the starting abilities and stuff. I'll just kind of give you the rundown of those by quickly reading them. Barbarian. Brutes, madmen, berserkers. Though city-dwelling people often use the term barbarian, what does, with a dose of disrespect, the rural warriors are respected by their communities for their ferocity and fearsome presence on the battlefield. Barbarians have a special, almost religious role in some cultures, but in many places, an undisciplined, fearless style of the barbarians is simply how warriors conduct themselves. Starting ability, Carnage. When the barbarians hit with melee weapon. Okay, so I wasn't going to read this. So basically, they get an ability to hit someone really hard. Fuck it, I'll just read it because these are not that long. When barbarians hit with a melee attack, they automatically make reduced damage attacks to all other enemies within a short distance of the target. So they hit someone, everyone gets hurt. They get a +2 to the athletic skill, +1 to the survival skill. Oh god, the skills. I'm going to have to read the skills. Athletics. Adventuring is tiring work. In addition to the hazards of mortal combat, adventures have walls to climb, rivers to cross, and pits to leap over. Once per encounter, characters with athletic abilities can use a second wind ability to recover lost endurance. A high athletics score increases the effect of second wind. In conversion and scripted interactions, athletics is used for physical feats like climbing, jumping, and swimming. Survival. Survival allows characters to choose from a variety of long-term bonuses each time they camp. The first 6 ranks grant them the following bonuses. 1. Damage reduction. 2. Receive minor healing multiplier. 3. Bonus movement. 4. Accuracy versus creature type. 5. Increased consumable duration. 6. Bonus damage versus flanked enemies. After the 6th rank, the previously earned bonuses become more powerful in the same order they were received. Survival can also be used in conversations and scripted interactions that involve wilderness challenges or specialized information about nature. And then they get endurance, 48 plus 16 plus level. This is considered very high. They have 6 health times endurance. This is considered very high. Their accuracy is 25 plus 3 plus level is considered average. And deflection 15, which is considered low. Chanter. These guys are basically bards. In every culture across Iroa, there are chanters. Many historians consider chanters to be the most ancient workers of magic, and their hollowed phrases string the collective memory of wayward souls around them, compelling them to generate magical effects in a kind of reenactment. In some societies, chanters form organized groups of storytellers and researchers, but in most parts of the world they are just a time-honored part of local folk tradition. Starting ability, phrase/chant. All chanters can continuously speak chants made up of magical phrases. Phrases produce passive effects and help build a chanter's power until they can use an invocation. They also start with invocations, powerful magical effects that chanters can create after they have spoken the required number of phrases through their chants. So the way this works is they can do passive chants, which give bonuses, and each time they go through a chant, they build up like a multiplier, and when that multiplier gets high enough, they can use spells using those multiplied things. It's kind of cool. It's a fun way of doing the whole bards as lesser spellcasters and also buffers. Their starting skills are Lore +2. Lore represents the character's accumulated miscellaneous knowledge and trivia, often of occult or esoteric topics. Outside of conversations and scripted interactions, lore is used to activate scrolls. Higher lore values allow the chanter to use higher level scrolls. And mechanics. Traps and locks can be a problem for even the toughest adventurer, draining their resources and maiming or killing those who are unfortunate enough to trigger the unseen floor plate. The mechanic skill makes it easier to open locks and find and disable traps. Additionally, I was jumping around. Additionally, a character can use the mechanic skill to place traps of their own. The higher the mechanic skill, the more accurate the traps. In conversations and scripted interactions, the mechanic can be used to activate or disable various mechanisms. Their endurance is 36 plus 12, which is considered very low. So they're squishy. Their health is 4 times endurance, which is considered low, but not very low. Accuracy is 25 plus 12, blah blah, is average, and their deflection is high. I believe deflection is the defense. Here we go. Is defense used to resist direct melee and ranged attacks against the character and are not area of effect AoE. It is defined by a character's class level and result, blah, 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 blah. So in other words, deflection is how much they can kind of deflect. So these guys having high deflection and low health means that they're kind of glass cannon-y. They can, or like glass ninja-y, they can sort of like deflect a lot of attacks and not necessarily get hit too hard, but AoE will just toast them, and any hits that go through are going to hurt like a bastard. Chanter. A recent discovery in the Eastern Reach is ciphers were once called Burswing, or Mind Hunters. That is so fucking cool. Fucking Mind Hunters. Hold on, let me just make sure that I'm still recording. I am, thank God. Or Mind Hunters by the the barbarian dudes who live in this area. Ciphers have the ability to directly contact and manipulate others around, and to manipulate another person's soul and psyche, using an ally or enemy's essence as the focus of their magic. Though most ciphers are still found in the Eastern Reach, practitioners of the technique have spread throughout the known world. They have gained acceptance over time, but are generally distrusted, especially by the uneducated. I wonder why! Maybe it's because they have the ability to read and manipulate your brain. Starting ability, powers. Ciphers can directly target allies and enemies with powerful soul-focused effects. These powers cost focus, which ciphers build through the use of their soul whip. Fucking soul whip. That's awesome. Okay. They get stealth. Stealth allows character of a class to attempt to avoid being seen or heard. It is used automatically whenever the character is in scouting mode. The higher the character's skill, the closer they can get to enemies before being detected. Lore, which we've already covered, and mechanics, which we've already covered. Their endurance is considered very low, their health is considered low, their accuracy is considered average, and their deflection is also considered average. So they're actually weaker in combat than the Chanter, but that's because they are magic psychics. You know, they're not really meant to go toe-to-toe. Druids. Animus at heart, druids tap into the spiritual power that flows through the simple living things of Ero, plants, animals, and sometimes even living stone. While not necessarily religious, druids do have a reverence for the natural world and a keen interest in understanding its mysteries. In most cultures, druids are understood as sort of a primal magic, but amongst Gelfrins, Nasqui, and many rural cultures, they may have high positions of influence and authority. Starting abilities: Spirit Shift. All druids have mastered one animalistic form. These forms give druids stronger melee abilities and grant an additional power while the druid is shifted. In other words, when you pick a druid, you get to choose an animal you can turn into. And that animal gets you special powers and abilities. It's fucking radical. I actually got tempted by that. Spells. Druids have access to a variety of offensive and some support-oriented spells. Every 2 levels, druids automatically gain access to an additional set of spells. Initially, their spells can be cast a limited number of times per rest. A druid gains power. Their weaker spells eventually shift to per encounter use. So in other words, like, you can use the per rest ones as like powerful spells that you can only cast once and then you have to wait till you find a place to rest. When they eventually shift to a per encounter, you can just use them every single time you get into a fight. They get +1 lore, +2 survival. Their endurance is considered very low, their health is considered low, their accuracy is considered very low, and their deflection is considered average. This is partly because they are considered spellcasters in the form that they start in, and then their animal form is where they kind of get into fighting. So I wonder if... Okay, yeah, so if I click through once, you actually get to see kind of what their specialists are. And rather than just go back through them like I did with Rice, I'm just going to start from here. So if I was to play Barbarian, I could either get Frenzy or Barbaric Yell. So Frenzy. So the Barbarian to Frenzy grants a constant... Basically, you go crazy and do a ton of damage. But you lose the ability to handle your character. And he gets like -10 deflection, health, and endurance. So basically, he just kind of goes fucking nuts. Barbaric Yell lets out a terrifying yell, frightening enemies in the area. So if it was Barbaric Yell, it's when you're less of a crazy, bloodthirsty berserker and more of an intimidating badass who, terrifies off lesser enemies to let you focus on the big bads. Chanters, you get to pick 2 spells. Cats. Blessed with quickness of his so Chanters get the different chants that they can work with. It's raining super creepy outside. So that's a something that gives them bonuses to the various people. Dull the edge, blunt the point. Thick grew their tongues, stumbling their or words. Basically, fucks up mages. Come soft wings of death. Area of effect damage. At the slightest command, their hearts grew bold, which is obviously boosting your allies. Cipher. So Ice Strike, Weak Mind, Soul Shock, Tendril Grasp, Whispers of Terror. Cool magic bullshit. Druids get the various forms of shapeshifting. So you could choose Bear. Draws upon the druid's natural connection to the bear, temporarily allowing them to assume that form. Bear shapeshifters have high damage reduction and can invoke a terrifying roar. Shapeshift Boar. Blah, blah, blah. The boar spirit regenerates lost endurance and inflicts damage over time with its melee attacks. So in other words, bear is tanky and can do the barbarian roar to scare people. Boar basically does damage over time attacks, so it can kind of essentially poison people and regenerates health. Cat. The cat spirit shift has a naturally fast attack and can burst into even faster attacks for a short period of time, so super stabby DPS. The stag shift has higher defense and can attack groups of enemies with melee carnage attacks, so gets that barbarian ability to attack a whole group of enemies and makes you super tough. And Wolf. The Wolf's shapeshift quickly has an attack that can knock enemies prone. So you get to like pounce on people and knock them to the fucking ground. Pretty rad. Fighter! Fighters form the front line of disciplined armies across the Eastern Reach. Though they are most commonly found in cultures with an organized military martial structure, fighters can be encountered as wandering mercenaries, bodyguards, and other types of sellswords. The common element that unifies fighters is their heavy focus on endurance and melee defense. Starting ability, constant recovery. Fighters constantly regenerate endurance at a moderate rate during combat. So they're tough bastards, and as long as they're not being actively beat on, they will actually start they'll just keep healing and keep going forever. They get athletics, lore, and survival. They are considered to have an average endurance, a high health, a very high accuracy, and a very high deflection. So they're not as tanky as barbarians, but they can like knock away enemy swords and hit with like just every attack. So just overall, very solid. I believe, yeah, so they can choose from one of two abilities, either Knockdown or Discipline Barrage. Knockdown obviously knocks the opponent down to the ground, which is super useful. Discipline Barrage, the fighter instantly focuses on his target, on his or her training, seemingly raising accuracy for a short period of time. So basically, they become even better at hitting for a while. Monk. Monks belong to a variety of fighting orders and have sprung up in Ixalim and the Eastern Reach over the past few centuries. While many monasteries, monastic orders can trace their teachings to the enduring founder, technical individual organizations vary greatly on their focus, morality, and ethics. Common folk respect the incredible discipline of monks, but see them as an odd, unpredictable bunch who may not be entirely sane. Even mercenaries and other adventurers aren't sure what to make of them. Starting ability, Transcendent Suffering. When monks have no weapon equipped, their unarmed attacks are exceptionally powerful and continue to increase in damage as they gain levels. Wounds. As monks are damaged, their pain generates wounds. Wounds can be used to power many of the monk's special abilities. So monks get stabbed, and that makes them more powerful. If I play a monk, I might actually like go back and switch to like a fire brand godlike, because that's super that's super cool. Endurance is average. Their health is very high, so they can go down relatively easily in a single fight, but they just keep going forever. Their accuracy is very high, and their deflection is high. So they can either get Swift Strike. The monk's hands become a frenzy of become a frenzied blur of attacks, and their attack rate for a brief time, or Tormented Reach. This ability exploits the shredded bonds of the universal suffering between all beings. An initial target is hit with a powerful blow that does additional crush damage. Enemies in a cone behind the target suffer crush damage and have might reduced. So in other words, they hit you so fucking hard, your buddies, behind you feel it and have their strength reduced by the staggering, power of that fucking punch. It is hum on overdrive for anyone who is a fan of JoJo. Oh, monks are cool. I kind of want to play a monk now. Anyway, sorry. I'm very excited. Paladin. Paladins are martial zealots devoted to a god, a ruler, or even a way of life. They can be found in any culture where a fanatical group of like-minded individuals have formed a warrior society dedicated to the advancing of their cause. Among those aligned to their worldview, paladins are viewed with respect and admiration, if a bit of fear. Many paladins hold leadership positions in armies and mercenary companies, but in the heat of battle, their fanaticism often overrules the chain of command and common sense. Starting ability, Faith and Conversion. Paladins have an inherent bonus to all of their defenses. Over the course of the game, the value of this bonus may shift based on the reputation the paladin gains relative to their behavior. that are preferred by his or her order. So in other words, let me read that again real quick. Over the course of the game, the value of this bonus may shift based on the reputation of the paladin. So they get a big defensive boost, but if you don't act in accordance with the laws that govern your crazy, order, your faith in that order will have been shaken because you are no longer acting in accordance with that zealotous, ideal that you have dedicated your life to. You are no longer being protected by that fanaticism, and therefore you start losing that defense. So it is very important if you're playing a paladin or a priest that you remember your fucking order and try and play accordingly, which is part of the reason I want to play paladin or priest, because it's a cool role-playing thing. They have average endurance, high health, average accuracy, and average deflection. They kind of make up for those lower base stats by having that awesome defense bonus. So if I were to do this, you can actually see the different paladin orders. So there's the Bleak Walkers. The Bleak Walkers are soldiers dedicated to conducting warfare mercilessly with extreme brutality in order to bring a swift end to conflicts. So paladins aren't necessarily always lawful good. Just saying. These guys are basically just like fucking brutes who come in and burn the goddamn earth in order to ensure a quick end to any conflict. Because they are renowned for their terrible and unyielding nature, most nobles will only call on them as a last resort. The Bleak Walkers' behavior reinforces cruelty, because the quickest resolution to a battle is one in which the Bleak Walkers' arrival is announced and a surrender immediately follows. To ensure that people understand no mercy will be given by Bleak Walkers, they never give quarter under any circumstance. Favored disposition, cruel and aggressive. Disfavored disposition, benevolent and diplomatic. So if you act in a benevolent or diplomatic way, you will lose standing with your order. If you act in a cruel and aggressive way, you will gain status with your order. Dursun Paladini. The oldest known paladin order in the world, the Dracosi Paladini, were founded by the guards of the Draconian Palace in the Grand Villa over 2,000 years ago. Since the shattering of the Grand Villa, the Dracosi Paladini have transformed into the protectors of and ambassadors of the immense Dracosi family, as well as the old Valentinian culture. The Dracosi Paladini are widespread and occasionally even come into conflict with other orders due to the machinations of the Dracosi family. Paladins of this order are renowned for their wits and love of life. Favorite disposition, passion and clever. Disfavored positions, cruel and stoic. So they want you to be passionate and clever. But if you're acting cruel or just being a stick in the mud, fuck you. Gold Pack Knights. There's a fucking order of paladins that are basically dirty, dirty mercenary bastards. The Gold Pack Knights are an order of mercenary paladins who sell themselves for all sorts of defensive and offensive engagements. They emerged on the Pearl Coast a few hundred years ago and managed to survive the destruction of the Dwarven nation that created them. Gold Pack Knights are not especially brutal and are willing to shift directions based on the desires of their employers. As their name suggests, Gold Pack Knights believe the payment forms the basis of contract. They are known for being non-judgmental, professional, and impressively mirthless. Favorite disposition, stoic and rational. So they want you to, always think through decisions and remain stoic and don't be a chuckling jackass. Disfavored positions, passionate and aggressive. Don't rush into conflict, and don't look like a fucking asshole. Be a professional, damn it. Kind Wayfarers. The most widespread paladin order, the Kind Wayfarers, are Gold Pack Knights, by the way. If you ever wanted to see what a true neutral, like a lawful neutral paladin order would look like, these guys. Anyway, Kind Wayfarers, the most widespread paladin order, the Kind Wayfarers, and on that note, Bleak Walkers are what a lawful evil paladin order would look like. Kind Wayfarers, the most widespread paladin order, the Kind Wayfarers are guides and protectors of travelers, often people of limited means traveling in dangerous areas. Kind Wayfarers lack the noble prestige of other paladin orders, but are widely respected by commoners for their generosity and compassion. Kind Wayfarers lack a centralized structure, and many members operate independently in remote areas. Though the order is known for not being wealthy, in recent years they've improved their finances via cartography and working with groups like the Hand Occult to develop travel guilds for little-known parts of Era. Favorite disposition? Benevolent, passionate. Disfavored positions? Deceptive and cruel. Don't be a monster. Do not lie. And be nice to people and enjoy life. Shield bearers of Saint Ekelg. During a peace negotiation, an archer from the kingdom of Edra shot the noblewoman emissary of Elcla, in the provoking battle. Ekeln nevertheless made a second attempt at negotiations, accompanied by 3 elven knights, whose only arms were shields they were held in the front of Egla to protect her. Elka succeeded, helping to form the Edrain Empire. The knights who protected her formed the shield bearers of Saint Ekla, who continue to act as guardians and diplomats in Ekron and beyond. They are well known for their honest and skill at negotiation. They varied disposition, honest and diplomatic. Disfavored position, cruel and aggressive. Priests! Priests are devotees of Era's deities and practitioners of religious magic. While priests dedicate themselves to a specific god, priest power is actually derived from their personal beliefs. So their powers don't come from the heavens, they come from their own internal faith, which is actually a very unisystem way of doing things, which I'm in favor of. In contrast to most paladins, priests tend to focus on philosophy, teaching, and relationships of religious organizations with common folks. These the reception of priests in any given part of the world depends largely on how their god is revered, or reviled, by the people who live there. Starting ability, Holy Radiance. Generate a modest amount of endurance for allies around the priest. Any enemy vessel caught in the area takes burn damage, may be frightened. Over the course of the game, the power of this ability may shift based on the reputation the priest gains relative to the behaviors that are preferred by his or her deity. In other words, just like the paladin, your main class ability will either get stronger or weaker depending on how strictly you are personally following the teachings of your god or order. And they also get spells. Priests have access to a variety of support and offensive-oriented spells. Every 2 levels, priests automatically gain access to an additional set of spells. Initially, their spells can be cast a limited number of times per rest. As a priest gains power, their weaker spells eventually shift to per-encounter use, just like the other magic user. Athletics and lore, they have very low endurance, low health, very low accuracy, and very low low deflection. So they suck in a fight, but that's okay because they are support through and through. Ranger. Rangers are warriors of the woodlands and masters of the hunt, always partnered with a soul-bound animal companion. They can be found in wild spaces all over the world. As their lifestyles often tend towards independence and isolation, it is rare for rangers to become an integral part of a large fighting force, though they are often employed as scouts and guides. Starting ability, Animal Companion. All rangers share a strong bond with an animal companion. The companion fights by the ranger's command and is extremely valuable for its ability to run interference. Animal companions don't do much damage, but they have high damage reduction. The link between ranger and companion is powerful. If one goes down in battle, the other suffers as well. They start with stealth and survival. They have very low endurance, high health, very high accuracy, and average deflection. They are archers and gunmen and ranged people in general. They get Wounding Shot or Mark Prey. after that, I think you get an animal companion. So you can get an antelope companion. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see, where's the bit that's different per thing? Okay, here we go. An antelope companion. Oh, here we go. Antelope companions have naturally superior defense, deflection, fortitude, reflex, and will. So, if you get an antelope companion, you get a really tough buddy. Bear companion. Bear companions have a usually high damage reduction, giving them superior protection from all forms of damage. So while the antelope is possibly tougher against like any attack, they'll still go down to like AoE and things like that. Whereas the bear is just tough as balls, but won't necessarily, like dodge and avoid a lot of the damage the antelope might. Boar companions inflict more damage when they are below 50% endurance, so if you hurt a boar, it eventually becomes really strong. Lion companions have the ability to terrify enemies with powerful roars, like the barbarian. Stags. Stags can activate a melee attack that does damage to all enemies in a small area around the main target. And the wolf. Companions do high damage and can more easily avoid disengagement attacks. So in this game, if you're in a fight with someone and you want to run away, they get a free attack on you. Wolves are pretty good at escaping those attacks. Rogue. Rogues are vicious killers, feared for their brutality of their attacks. They can be found as often in dark, black alleys as the heart of battlefield skirmishes. Though unpredictable and undisciplined, rogues are commonly used as shock troops or as part of surprise assaults. Their withering attacks break enemy ranks and morale. Rogues tend to conjugate in large numbers in cities where they can be steadily employed as mercenaries or hired muscle. Ability. Sneak attack. Applied bonus damage to the rogue's ranged and melee weapons attacks when the target has any of the following afflictions: blinded, flanked, hobbled, paralyzed, petrified, prone, struck, stunned, or weakened. So in other words, rogues tend to target down people who've already been engaged and fucked with by the rest of the party. If you can buy a deathlike with a rogue, or the Orglians with a rogue, you can get a pretty fucking radical bonus here. It also applies to any target the rogue strikes with weapons within the first 2 seconds of combat. So also, surprise attacking people is super strong for rogues. Endurance, very low. Health, low. Accuracy, very high. Deflection, low. So they're super weak, but they hit really, really effectively and are really great at just fucking up people who have been hurt. Finally, Wizard! The masters of academic magic. Wizards are students of arcane traditions that stretch back beyond the boundaries of recorded history. Wizards are a highly organized group, often forming forming academies and guilds devoted to research and development of magical studies, and tend to favor environments where inquiry, experimentation, debate, and getting out knowledge are encouraged. Many accomplished wizards I'm getting tired. Sorry. Eventually become known for their eccentricities, their ego, and their unquenchable intellect in all things arcane and occult. Starting abilities: Arcane Assault, mid-range attack that hits a small area for raw damage that can leave targets dazed. Spells: Wizards have access to a variety of offensive and personal defensive spells. Unlike priests and druids, wizards learn individual spells that they store in and cast directly from their grimoires. Grimoires can only hold 4 spells of each spell level, which motivates wizards to keep multiple grimoires for different needs. Every 2 levels, wizards gain access to an additional set of spells. However, they can automatically learn 1 spell of any level they can access each time they advance. Wizards also have the option of learning spells from grimoires they find or buy. Initially, their spells can be cast a limited number of times per rest. Wizards gain the gain power. Their weaker spells eventually shift to per counter uses. Okay. We're not done by any means, but after this is just culture, which is nowhere near as long. Appearance and voice, which are both not word heavy. We're almost there, people. Okay. I really like Monk. Monk is super cool. I love that ability to just like bash the fuck out of people, and it goes well with the godlike thing where the more they get hurt, the more powerful they become. Where the monks, the more they get hurt, the more powerful they become. I also like Paladin for the role-playing stuff. Choosing a Paladin order and having to live up to that order. As much as I'm kind of interested in the Monk thing, from a gameplay perspective, story-wise, which is the whole reason I'm doing this, is like an LP and stuff, I gotta go with the Paladin. Paladin is what I was kind of thinking of. So let's do Paladin. And now we got we have to choose our order. There's the League Walkers, shock and awe. The guys who I can't pronounce, who are all about being clever and passionate and dislike being cruel and stoic. Gold Pack Knights, who are stoic and rational and dislike passion and aggression, are all about following orders. The Kind Wayfarers, who are about being benevolent and passionate, and dislike deceptiveness and cruelty. And then the Shield Bearers, who are honest and diplomatic, and dislike cruel and aggressive. I'll be honest, I like these guys. They're kind of cool. I do like the whole passion and cleverness, and disliking cruel and stoic. My one problem is I cannot pronounce that fucking name, and that's going to be a problem. The Gold Pack is also pretty cool, but just because of who I am, I'm an inherently nice person. I tend to feel uncomfortable doing nasty things. So I'm gonna be the good guys. I'm gonna be a kind wayfarer, which goes along with her, whole thing that I'm kind of developing for this character. She left home to go and travel the world to see more places, and the kind wayfarers are all about cartography and exploring new areas and helping the people they find there. Plus, is someone who is kind of divorced from her home and family and the people she grew up with, both being kind to other people and also having an order that doesn't necessarily have to be there to still feel connected to others, appeals to her. So I'm going to say she's a kind of wayfarer. She's a nature godlike, and she is a kind of wayfarer. Now I get to choose an ability. I can choose Flame of Devotion. Call upon the paladin's inner fire, causing their equipped weapon to burst into flames, adding burn damage to their next attack. 2 per encounter. Speed, instant. Effect, use flame, use her full attack, blah blah blah, does damage, blah blah blah. Or Lay on Hands. Fueled solely by belief the paladin is able to heal with the touch of his or her hands, recovering a substantial amount of endurance for the paladin or an ally within range. So if I want to be tanky or supportive, Lay on Hands. If I want to have some extra heavy damage, Flames of Devotion. I kind of want to hurt people. I'll be honest, I sort of want to smack people pretty fucking hard. So, as much as I usually like to go healing, I'm gonna do smashies. Now we get to abilities. Alright. So, yes. So far we've established the character as female, nature godlike, paladin of the kind wayfarers. She has faith and conviction, and flames of devotion. Now we choose our attributes. So, we've already kind of gone over these. Might, constitution, dexterity, perception, intelligence, and resolve. And like in classic Baldur's Gate games, we also have +1 to intelligence and dexterity because of our race. Like in old school D&D and Baldur's Gate and all that stuff, there are areas that you want to kind of focus on depending on what type of character you're playing. But in Pillars, they actually take the extra step, which is rather nice, of marking them. Silver stars are things that you want to have, and Gold Star is your main ability. So, Might, recommended for Paladins. Constitution, recommended for Paladins. Dexterity and Perception, not recommended. Intelligence, recommended for Paladins. And Resolve, highly recommended for Paladins. So I won't go over the actual description of them, but we'll just go over what these do. So Might is plus 0% damage and healing, plus 0% fortitude. So the more I have in that, the more of a bonus I get to damage and fortitude. Constitution. This gives me percentage of endurance and health, and another bonus to fortitude. Dexterity is action speed and reflex. Perception is interrupt, accuracy, and reflex. So if I wanted to be like a wizard hunter, I could smack people. If I had high perception, I could like interrupt spells much more effectively. Intelligence. Area of effect. This determines area of effect, duration, and will. So this would be good for my paladin-y spells. And finally, resolve. Concentration, deflection, and will. So this is basically how good I am at like blocking attacks, which are super good for a paladin. Concentration, how much my own spells can resist being interrupted by other people, which is not as important, I'd say, but still pretty good. And will, which is my mental defense. So since it's highly recommended, I'm just gonna start out by bashing the shit out of that and make that super high. I really want a high might. Unlike in old D&D, it doesn't go by levels of 2. In old D&D, like or even new D&D, I think, if you don't have an even number, it basically is fucking worthless. Like each even number gives you a bonus. So I want to be able to do a lot of damage. I want to have a relatively high DPS for this guy, so this lady. So gonna knock those up. I don't care that much about intellect because I'm not really using a ton. I'm not really using like super high class paladin-y healing spells and stuff. But it's still probably for the best to up those. I'm actually gonna drop my perception. I'm not gonna like bring it down all the way to the bottom, but I'm gonna lower it a little bit and use those extra points to put in Constitution. I don't. All right, I'm gonna actually. Yeah, I want to be really tough, high damage. Yeah, I'll knock one out of Constitution, plus one to Might. So I'm gonna have a really heavy swing, be fairly tough, be okay speed, be kind of underwhelming in like my ability to interrupt and my accuracy. So I'm gonna be swinging a lot faster. I'm gonna be hitting harder and not necessarily hitting as often. I'm not going to be focusing too heavily on my intellect, so my paladin magic is going to be a little bit weaker. But I'm going to have a super high concentration, so it'll be very difficult to interrupt me. I'm going to be very good deflecting, and it's going to be very difficult for spells to affect me. This is probably not a particularly great build the way I'm doing this, but part of the reason, I'm playing on story mode. I'm doing story mode time. If I was playing on higher difficulty setting, I'd probably pull out a spreadsheet and start, really going hardcore and getting all these numbers, but we're not doing that. Okay, culture. So our attributes are 16 might, 14 constitution, 11 dexterity, 8 perception, 10 intelligence, and 19 resistance. So, culture. Edry. The Edry Empire is currently the largest and most powerful force in this part of the world. It is centered around the equator and has a tropical climate. Though the Empire has colonies in numerous areas of the world, Greater Andria is at the heart and house of the majority of the human and elven nations. And by picking this, you get +1 resolve. Oh yeah, and this also changes what your gear looks like what gear you start with, and what your basic outfit looks like. So this is kind of cool. So each of the classes have different versions of these. So this is pretty interesting. So these guys are kind of like the big, kind of southerny type people, and they've got poofy armbands and light skirts and steel arm. They're kind of Spaniards or Italians in a lot of ways. So they get +1 resolve. Dreadfire Archipelago. Oh yeah, they also have a sword and shield. Dreadfire Archipelago. Consisting of the nation of Nasquai, dozens of Alumna settlements, and hundreds of lawless, pirate-infested islands that stretch along the southern sea, Dreadfire is home to Brothiel dwarves, aluminum, and a mixed variety of other races. Dreadfire Archipelago is the last stop for anyone headed east. A multitude of monstrous sea creatures infect the ocean, beyond making travel virtually impossible. You get +1 dexterity. They have kind of a scale mail type armor with leather pauldrons and bracers, and you got a big spear because you're like a shipboard person. If I was playing a Fireborn, I'd definitely a fire type, fire-like fire godlike. I would definitely be from the Dreadfire Archipelago because they got some cool lore there. But anyway, Ixalim Peninsula, leather and a shield and an axe. I like that. Located in the northeast of Erglorenfell, the Ixalim Plains are a large expanse of fertile savanna that is extensively farmed by humans and Orland residents. The Ixalim culture is one of the oldest in the world, though one of the least imperialistic, having spread out little over the past several thousand years. They get +1 resolve. Old Valentia. These guys are super, Italian, so like, the Vandrian are kind of like Spanish. These guys are Italian. They get the same type of clothing, but they have a rapier and a small iron shield, buckler shield. Once the crown jewel of the southern sea, Old Valentia is now the crumbled remnants of an empire of warring merchant nations. Counting many humans and dwarves amongst their ranks, the Old Valentia counties are still focused are still a force to be reckoned with, and proud of their rich cultural heritage. You get +1 intellect if you're from there. Rutella, they have chainmail, a big wooden teardrop shaped shields, kind of Vikingish, and they got a big old hammer, big old war hammer. That's awesome. Dominated by the aluminum nations of Rutella, the Gulf itself is a host to a number of nations, most of them Alumnia, Orland, and Dwarf. Though these countries are relatively young, they are some of the most advanced colonial settlements in the East. The Gulf is a land of riches and resources for those who can take them. Though the entire coast is often pummeled by violent storms. The Living Lands. Ooh, this is kind of cool. You get like a plated, studded leather armor over chainmail with a buckler shield and a mace. The Living Lands is the mountainous region of a large northern island renowned for its diversity of plant and animal life. It's weathered, unpredictable, and its ecosystem is very dramatically ecosystem varies dramatically from valley to valley. The Living Lands are home to an assortment of races and a variety of colonial and independent settlements. If I was playing a nature godlike who was happy where she was born, this is 100% the place I'd want to start it in. Also, that +1 might is super, super nice. The White and Wild and Wendlands. A large, cracked southern expanse of polar ice. The White and Wendlands is home to pale elves and small colonies of daring explorers, outcasts, and adventurers. While virtually no plant life grows in the White, it is home to many hardy species of dangerous animals that forage from the sea to prey upon each other to survive. He had a large sword and a very warm-looking, padded coat. This gives you +1 perception, which is a stat I didn't really want. But this is absolutely lore-wise where I want to be from. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back, drop my perception even lower, and use that extra point to boost. I mean, again, min-max-wise, I probably won't look for a resolve thing and just continue to min-max the shit out of that. But I'll just toss that into. Yeah, you know what? Actually, not having my Yeah, it's actually probably... Yeah, because that actually boosts up my my stuff. It kind of... It's bad for min-maxing, but actually reduces some of the min side of the min-maxing. So, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. I'll just stick it where it is. So now I've got 16 might, 14 constitution, 11 dexterity, 9 perception, 10 intelligence, and 18 resistance. I am from the White Ones. And now... Oh, right. My background. Aristocratic. You've lived your life amongst the nobility. Your days have been marked by lavish meals and extravagant parties. Your conversation peppered with talk of protege and bloodlines. Lore +2. Absolutely fucking not what I intend for this character. Explorer. You find the siren call of the horizon irresistible. You cannot help but wonder what lies beyond the next hill or wave, and you've built your life around finding out. +1 lore, +1 survival. Probably what I'm looking for. Laborer. Your life has been spent in the study of your craft. You've trained and prepared, hoping to hone your skills to ply your trade. Athletics and mechanics. Mystic. You've never been able to explain how the universe guides your path. Behind every task you undertake is a feeling of cosmic direction. +2 lore. Appropriate for godlike, but not for this one. Drifter. You've never quite felt in no matter where you go. Each new town is just a place to rest briefly before moving on to the next. You are more comfortable with the road and traveling the world. +1 stealth, +1 mechanics. Closer to what I've been seeing for this character, but I kind of want to have this... You get a keep as part of this game, and I kind of have this idea of her finally kind of settling down there. So Drifter isn't really necessarily what I want. Hunter. You've lived for the thrill of the chase, whether for glory or for substance. You've made your living taking the lives of wild creature. +1 stealth, +1 survival. Great for a ranger. Not so great for a nature godlike. Merchant. You've traded goods from all over the world, pairing items with buyers of all kinds. +1 lore, +1 mechanics. You know what? I'm going to say explorer. +1 lore, +1 survival. That sounds awesome. And yeah, I took off to explore the world, and now I'm going to finally settle down. But even settling down, I still just want to keep on exploring. So this is me. White. I come from the White Lands. I was born to pale elves, even though I was not actually born a pale elf. Instead, I was born with the discolored skin and the unusual markings of a nature godlike. I was raised in a paladin order. I was raised in a holy order of paladins, and they were like a religious order, probably like a church or something, but didn't really feel the calling of the priesthood. So instead, I took up the sword and wandered out into the wastes, looking for a land that felt more alive and natural, and using the religious teachings I was given to. Fuck! I forgot to read about the religions. God fucking damn it! God fucking damn it! God fucking damn it! Oh shit! Oh shit! Okay. The priests. So here's the deities, and again, I wouldn't actually go back for this one, except that these religions are actually going to be really important later on. So, Brethin, called Brethin in Endrin and Cresso in Villain, it is the god of cycles and of doors, and of life and death itself. People commonly place or crave the figure of Brethren in doorways, windows, and other portals from one place to another. Brethren has a relatively small priesthood, in part because it does not speak often to them. However, Brethren has many practitioners and occasional followers. Favored disposition, stoic and rational. Disfavored positions, passionate and cruel. Ethos. Ethos is the Endrian name for the god of light, redemption, and rebirth. While worshippers of Ethos is still popular in the Arian Empire and Ridkaros, the faith is outlawed in most cities in the Drywood due to the events of the Saints' War, in which Saint Wenwen, who had supposedly become a living vessel for Athos, attempted to invade the Drywood before being destroyed at the gates of Halgloth Citadel. Athos has not been heard from since and is presumed dead by most. Favorite disposition, benevolent and honest. Disfavored position, cruel and deceptive. Megrin. Megrin is the goddess of war and fire, and hers is the most populous following in Drywood. Megrin's faithful are rank-and-file soldiers, as well as officers and tacticians and strategists. Additionally, they create devices used in warfare, especially those made in the forge, such as weapons and armor. Her priests view battle and warfare as inevitable human activities and should be pursued with single-minded efficiency. Conquering. Consequently, she is not a goddess of battle, lust, or celebration as much as military excellence and passionate discipline. Favorite dispositions: aggressive, clever. Disfavored positions: diplomatic and passionate. You have to be a fucking professional about things. Damn it. Sulkin, known as the Quiet Slave, is the god of secret hatred, resentment, and violent rebellion. He is usually depicted as a small, bald man covered in lash scars, whose ears and nose have been cut off. He appears outwardly submissive, with downcast eyes. However, his eyes glitter black with quiet hatred, and his fist is clenched. He is known to manifest in horrific incarnations known as the effigy to followers desperate enough to perform certain unspeakable rites. In Drywood, Scarfin's faith often doubles as torturous and executioners, delighting in the fall of high statue prisoners. Favorite positions: deceptive and cruel. Disfavored positions: benevolent and aggressive. He is not a god of, mindless attacking or being nice to people. He is a god of being clever and cunning and cruel. This is very much a god that you could play a Hearthkithen as. And finally, while the god of dreams, secrets, mysteries, and revelations. Incumbrant even to other inscrutable even to other gods, Will has no determined gender or constant appearance. Its symbol is the eye through the look and numbers. Its symbol is the eye, though the look and number of eyes often changes. People pray to Whale both to protect their secrets as well as to unravel the mysteries in front of them. Followers of Whale are known for many strange and unusual practices, possibly for good reason, possibly for no reason at all. Favorite disposition: deceptive and clever. Disfavored position: rational and honest. Basically, he wants you to be Discord. Anyway, I'm going to say that she is a worshipper of the old god Athos. And probably something that she's not going to be too open about, considering the fact that that worship of the god in this area of the world is very, 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 very much not okay. Alright, kind wafer, flame of devotion, all that's good, all that's still good. Yep. Okay, now we get to finally make what this character looks like. So, we don't have any facial hair options because we're a lady, and we don't have any hair options because we're a godlike. But we do have a couple of head options to go along with the godlike thing. The godlikes have some pretty cool heads, so the look that you've been seeing this entire time is not necessarily what we're going with. So this is kind of a cow-looking nature godlike. She's got the horns, she's got the downturned cow ears, she's got flowers in her hair and kind of a little mohawk thing. Instead, we can also have more of a stag-like thing. Long antelope-like antlers, pink flowers rather than yellow, and a second set of kind of horns going down the backside of her head, with lower, smaller ears. And finally, we have this kind of crazy ram-like one, no flowers at all, but lots of horns, all pulling backwards around the back of her head. Actually, I like that one a lot. As a paladin, that's kind of cool. If I was going as a monk, I might choose that one, but I like this because it's kind of nice and strong looking. But I sort of like this one, actually. I think I'm going to go with this one because it sort of looks, I don't know, to me it speaks of the pink flower and the antlers. It kind of speaks of a traveler and someone displaced. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Anyway, there is a shitload. Yeah, so you get like little symbols and stuff. So female, nature godlike, paladin, and the white Wade's explorer. So there are 79 portraits for females and 79 portraits for males. Sorry, there's 79 portraits in total. There's male. You can choose a male or female portrait for your character. So if you want to play, I don't know, like a transgender person, you can do it. Anyway, so the default here is the death godlike. Depending on your race and gender, it'll set you as like a default one. So this is the default for godlike, is the death one. So these are the two. I think there's like two for each of them. So this is the one type of deathlike that you saw before. Here's another deathlike appearance, which is kind of a domed head. It's pretty fucking cool looking. So there's the that would be more of this one, and then this would be kind of more of that one. So I probably could go with this one right here. But oh, sweet, they also have that. So that's kind of cool, actually. Yeah. So like different types of hair and stuff, and actually that's a little closer to what I'm kind of seeing for like the armor and stuff. No, actually probably that's more so, but then we'll look through all of them. So there's the fire godlike. Fire godlike has some cool ones. There's moon godlike, Leonard moon godlike. Oh no, that's my portrait. Fucking A. Yeah, no, that's perfect. So female warrior. And I'm just gonna go through the portraits real quick because I want a chance to rest my voice, and it's kind of cool to go through them. You can kind of see what a number of these different people could potentially look like depending on what we're doing. So the coastal people. So some of them you'll notice are kind of palette swapped, but there's a shitload of portraits. Yeah, some more death godlikes there. Interesting, there appears to be... no, there you go. There's another nature godlike. So, yeah. Lot of options. If you really, really want. Also, keep in mind that you can do all of this over again for every one of your mercenary companions, which I'm not going to be using because I want the story companions, but, like, if you're thinking, like, why would I want to make my my hero look like this old crazy dude? Maybe you want to have a mage who's like a crazy old dude, and he's now a member of your party. Cool. But yeah, so, even if you don't necessarily, these options are great because you can potentially have, fill out your entire 6-person party with, characters that you have custom made, and they're, like, specially designed by you for you. So, yeah, no, I like that one, though. It's actually kind of my favorite nature godlike look, and it fits closest to the character, so I'm actually really happy with that. So now we choose our colors. I do want to stick with the green. It matches the thing. It also kind of, it looks nice. I like the green. So for primary, I actually could also see silver to match that. So yeah, it's some colors. And these you can change at any time. I mean, I'm very, very inclined towards purple because I love purple. It's my favorite color, but for the nature godlike, I really think green is most appropriate. So I'm going to choose a green. Kind of like this. It's sort of a forest green. The mint green is also kind of cute. I do actually like this one. It's kind of light green. Then for our secondary color, affect our pants. Oh, actually, I like that. Purple pants are a little bit off, but, I'm okay with that. That's actually really nice. That looks nice. I like the color contrast, but black if I want to be boring. No, it doesn't look too bad, but damn it, I want purple. I want some purple in my design. So I'm gonna go with some purple here. Okay, Alright, I like this. I like this character. Oh yeah, so now we get a bunch of voices, and again, if you want to make your character trans, well, you can totally have the voice not match the gender you've assigned to the character.
Hmm? Leading the way. The better part of valor. Yes?
I shall lead us. Finish them!
Silence surrounds me. I've got this. Quickly and quietly.
What is it? Now I am leader of the group.
I'm here. I'm flattered.
Yeah!
Come on, that one's cute.
Steady does it.
Huh? Follow me. Let's go.
Hey there. Watch and learn.
Show them how it's done! I'll go on ahead. Just say the word. I'll lead the way.
So I also like the way they do these. So it's
Onward!
female noble,
To whispers and shadows.
female mystic,
Eh?
female feisty,
Now I am leader of the group.
female sinister,
Stand together!
female benevolent,
Steady does it.
female stoic,
Yeah?
female smooth,
I'll lead the way.
female cocky,
Let's go!
male feisty,
To whispers and shadows.
male mystic,
Ready when you are.
male cocky,
Flattered.
male benevolent,
Show them how it's done!
male smooth,
Quiet.
male stoic, male noble,
Leading the way. Bring them down!
male sinister, and none if you just want your character to not speak. Personally, I consider that to be the boring option. These voices only don't appear for like dialogue or anything. They're just like when you're ordering your character around.
I'm here. I'm flattered. Yeah! Yes?
I think female benevolence is probably the closest to what I see for this character, but
Watch and learn. Easy does it.
smooth is kind of okay.
Huh?
Follow me.
Stoic is alright, but because I'm not going to be playing a stoic character,
Let's go.
well, it might fit a paladin. It's not really what I'm going
The
for.
better part of valor. Hmm?
Noble's okay,
I've
but
got this. My eyes are peeled.
I like feisty as well, though.
Yes. Now I am leader of the group.
As much as I do enjoy sinister, it's totally inappropriate.
You're mine. Just say the word.
Now I am leader of the group.
I'm flattered. Yeah!
Actually,
My eyes are peeled. I've got this.
Let's go.
you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go with feisty. She's feisty. She's a feisty lady. And now, finally, a name. After all of that, we finally get to the fucking name. Oh, I'm sure you, like the people who are sticking around for this entire character creation episode, want to fucking strangle me at this point for reading all of that. And I apologize, but thank you for staying with me if any of you actually are still with me. Also, you're probably just listening to this as a podcast by this point, which is totally fine. Enter the name. Fuck. I am terrible at names. I'm not going to fucking name her April, which is my name for female characters in general. Because that's not really appropriate. Though, admittedly, it's more appropriate than it would be for any other thing. I mean, a nature godlike naming after a season is kind of appropriate. But Diana, yeah. I'm looking at a picture of Mabel holding Pinkie Pie. Neither name is appropriate, but I briefly considered it. Squiggly, also no. Looking at a squiggly picture and a Sweetie Belle picture. None of these are appropriate. Artemis? No. It's not unique enough. I want this character to be my character, to be our character. This is our baby. Let's call her. Yeah, fuck it. I'm calling her April. It's totally lore inappropriate, but you know what? Fuck it. It's my goddamn character. I want to have a name that I can pronounce and that I can say and that feels unique to me, and so fuck it. It's April the Paladin. Oh shit, I forgot to... Let's quickly... Cut!